Hi, I'm Kit Noonan.
And I'm Kaelynn Serena Stanton. We're certified coaches and best friends from different generations who aim to simplify wellness for you. Soulful Wellness is a personal wellness evolution podcast and community that embraces living well your way. No trends, diets, or one-size-fits-all advice here.
We aim to bring you practical guidance and share our personal experiences so you too can heal inside and out and experience your own wellness evolution.
Join us every Thursday as we embrace living from the soul.
The Soulful Society has a profile. Driven, intelligent professionals who strive to live their best lives and are therefore interested in continuous self-improvement. Our drive for excellence has a lot of positive aspects, but this healthy drive can also go into overdrive, making us vulnerable to perfectionism. Getting stuck in perfectionism can be demotivating and quite the opposite of what we intended, become a barrier to creating the life we actually want.
Is perfectionism our friend or foe? What drives it, and how does it manifest in our lives? These are the questions we'll explore in today's episode. Hello, Soulful Society. Thank you for subscribing. If you're new, welcome. We are buzzing. We are so excited to have you here. If you like this episode, please hit that subscribe button and share this with a friend that you think it would resonate with as well.
Today we're talking perfectionism and briefly the good things, but mostly the not good aspects to it. It's absolutely a double-edged sword. It can motivate us and impel us to action that leads to success, to achieve great things, but when taken to the extreme, which is kind of a silly thing to say because isn't the pursuit of perfection an extreme in itself, honestly?
In itself, yeah.
This pursuit of perfection, this relentless pursuit of perfection leads to anxiety, burnout, and a constant sense of inadequacy.
It's exhausting. And as you guys very well know, these episode subjects come from our own lives. They're inspired by our real experiences, our real feelings, and they usually relate to stuff that our clients are going through too, but we're right in it with you.
Ripped from the headlines, if the headlines were what's coming up for us.
Exactly. As you guys have probably seen in our bio, I don't know, let's see, we're a multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists. So here at the Soulful Society, we've coined this term as imperfectionist, and in today's episode, we are hopeful to chat about what that looks like and how to actually enact that as, we navigate what is perfectionism, what are the roots to it, but more importantly, how's it showing up for you, and how can we move forward and not necessarily, I don't want to promise leave it at the door, right? But be able to recognize it and cultivate more self-love and acceptance so that we can be happier, frankly.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on some of the more typical aspects of perfectionism or the ways they manifest in daily life, but we're going to try to pull from our own recent personal experiences and shine a little light on some of the lesser known or things that you don't necessarily realize might stem from your perfectionist tendencies.
What's interesting to me in doing some research and reflection for this episode is that the root of perfectionism, there's a few, right? And they can stem from different places, but is really often self-protection.
Definitely.
So it has nothing to do with ambition or, striving for accomplishments. It's really mostly about keeping ourselves safe and trying to avoid judgment and criticism as much as possible. And this could be rooted from your childhood, from society, from religion, where there's this deep-seated fear of judgment. And often it starts in childhood, right? So at one point, this was useful to you when you developed this.
It's kind of a misnomer when you think about it in the way you're describing, because it has perfect in the name. Perfect, ideal, sounds like a good thing, sounds like something worthy of striving for, but it's really the opposite end of the spectrum because it's insecurities, a sense of not being worthy or not being good enough. So as a recovering perfectionist, I never for one moment thought that I was anything remotely close to perfect or capable of ever achieving perfection. It was really just all the insecurities rearing their little heads, their little voices, and spouting off reminders of how far from perfect I actually was.
It's like this younger part of me learned, like, if I'm perfect, like, I won't upset anyone. Like, I can keep the peace. If I'm perfect, I won't be criticized or rejected. But I often, like, the word perfect never really came up in my head, in my vernacular. I had always thought growing up perfectionists were the straight A students. You know, there's this stereotype that they are high achieving people. And I didn't learn until much later in life, in those self-discovery journeys, it can really come up sneakily. You know, it doesn't have to be such a straightforward narrative of like, this needs to be actually perfect.
All I saw was the distance between what I achieved and what that ideal that I had set as the goal was. And therefore, I don't think I ever truly got to revel in some well-deserved successes along the way. I stole that from myself.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
I'm picturing you as a kid and not celebrating the small wins.
It was more compartmentalized when I was younger. It was really starting in young adulthood and then into adulthood that I really started to put these unrealistic and unhealthy pressures and expectations on myself. It was sort of like most people mature. I sort of went backward as far as like emotional and mental health goes. I did it the wrong direction for a while.
Well, you know what? There is no right direction. It's all a zigzag, right? And a freaking roller coaster.
Yeah, seriously, if I could control these things, it would look very different.
Yeah. And like maybe that is like the root of this too, now that we're talking about it, is like this need for control, which as we know, is also a root of anxiety, experiencing that anxiety. So they're all best friends, right? We got the inner critic, the perfectionism, the anxiety, stemming from the need to control and also like the need to protect. Our ego often is in the driver's seat with things like perfectionism and criticizing ourselves because we almost want to beat you to it, right? I'm like, well, if I just beat myself up, then, you know, no one else can. I remember being in high school and my thing was sort of to be self-deprecating. So I would use humor as, now that I think about it, a mask of, okay, well, you can't judge me if I beat you to it. But it was, looking back, it's so, you know, I want to hug my inner teen because I'm like, where was your self-compassion, your self-love, and your self-esteem? And it made so much sense why my self-esteem might have been lower, amongst other reasons.
Your words won't hurt me. Your criticisms won't hurt me if I say them first because they're not new. I already know them. You're not covering new territory. This isn't anything I haven't said to myself 1,000 times. So you got something more potent? If not, you can't touch me.
I think that we should do some sort of challenge. It's like when we discover that we're starting to head down that path, because everyone does, right? And it could be a number of reasons. It can even be physiological, right? When I get hangry, I mean, all hell breaks loose. I'm just going down a wormhole of hatred and disdain for everything. But if we can identify that pattern, it's like, what is one nice thing, as cheesy as it sounds, that we can point out about ourselves?
I love that. It's like the physical 1 in, 1 out rule so that you don't get clutter. It's one compliment to offset one self insult. Like if I'm going to rag on myself, if I'm going to cut myself down, I got to come back with at least one valid self-praise or self-admiration.
Right.
Because I'm not all anything. I'm not all bad. I'm not all ineptitude. I'm not all carelessness. I'm human. I'm a balance of good and bad. And like you said, it depends on if you're overly hungry or overly tired. Of course, you're going to tend toward more mistakes or more missteps and be more critical. You set yourself physically up for that. So those are the moments that you need it the most, that say like, hold on, getting carried away with this here. We don't need to run away with itemizing all my shortcomings. Let's one for one.
Right. We don't need a laundry list of my shortcomings right now. I'm already feeling like crap.
Yeah. No piling on.
I feel like the ultimate journey of imperfectionism, because we'll throw it out there, the term, but as we're like kind of digging into it, I feel like it really is this celebration of our shortcomings, of our faults, of our mistakes, and of maybe our quirkiness or just things that set us apart or make us unique. Perfectionism has a tendency to like keep us in this box. Basically, imperfectionism is getting to that point where we can laugh at ourselves with kindness, where we can balance confidence and acceptance for the fact that we are human. We are never going to be perfect.
No one's for everyone. An example of a real life area that I realize stems from my intrinsic pursuit of perfection that most people don't typically think of, and that's my interpersonal relationships. I have this inner need to be liked by everyone. It's odd. I even need people I don't like to like me. I don't know why. Why does it matter what they think of me? I don't even want to be their friends anyway. What winds up happening is if I think I have an opinion or an idea or a belief that differs from someone else's, instead of having healthy dialogue about it, discussing it, sometimes agreeing to disagree, instead I just avoid and I'll pretend like I don't have an idea and I'll just ask them questions and listen and never actually share my idea because I'm afraid they won't like me if I have a different belief. But all I'm doing is masking myself. So if they wind up liking me, it's not that they actually like me. They don't know me. I didn't share myself with them. They like the picture of me I let them see. Are we really even friends at that point? This is a fake version of me. I mean, it's not fake. What I let them see of me is really me. I don't pretend I think something I don't think, but I haven't shown them the parts that I assume. So, as you said, a lot of assuming happening. I'm assuming they're not going to like that about me, or I'm assuming they're not going to agree with that, which also isn't fair for me to do to acquaintances and certainly not friends. I should give them the chance to agree with me or not, or disagree with me or not, or like me or not. So it inhibits my ability to truly let people see me for me and get to know me for me and be close to people.
Wow. I can totally relate to everything you just shared. Everything. And I'm wondering if some of our listeners can relate to that as well, as like, you're not showing up or presenting fake, but maybe we're holding back a little bit. And like for me, it's fear of, I really am uncomfortable by debate. I don't like it. I know people who really thrive in it and they enjoy that discourse and thrive in that type of environment. It makes me so incredibly uncomfortable. I find myself trying to take on the role of the peacemaker, right? Even at like, let's say like extended family dinners, if there's some sort of political debate or anything, I'll try to even like change the subject or move the tide somewhere else. I'm like, I don't have control over the dinner table conversation, right? Realistically, I'm not going to steer this away. Why can't I just sit in that discomfort? Why can't I, state an opinion that's different? Is it because I have a fear or insecurity of being able to follow through? Is it a fear of being disliked? Probably both. It's compounding.
That's an interesting question. what's really scary about that? I don't know if I can fully answer that. I guess the obvious answer is the person won't respect me and won't like me and think that I'm just wrong or stupid or ill-informed, or for whatever it is, think less of me. And this can even be somebody who I don't respect their opinion, but I still don't want the other person to fundamentally, it sounds silly to keep saying like not like me, but that's really what it is. Why do I care? That's so much harder to answer. I don't really know. I don't know where that comes from. Why do I care if somebody I don't really like and don't want to be friends with doesn't like me? Ultimately, that's just the anomaly of perfectionism. If it's not 100%, it's zero. It's all or nothing. And if there are 5% of the people who I'm not their cup of tea, that means I'm not good enough, is what my brain tells me.
That makes total sense. The brain says, okay, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Even if you don't want them to be your friend, you want to win them over. Like, oh, well, they like me. That's like satisfying. All of this is driven by our ego. 100%. The ego's job is to protect, right? No matter what its avenue is, like let's say negative self-talk or holding yourself back or procrastination, it's all an effort to protect us from embarrassment, from shame. And let's remind ourselves that historically speaking, going way, way, way back, humans are communal and tribal, and it's always been very important for the tribe to like you or respect you.
Your very survival depended on inclusion.
Exactly. So before we jump into our tools, we're just going to briefly go over the 3 roots of your perfectionism. 1 could be early experiences. So in your childhood, where approval was conditional upon achievement, that can definitely foster perfectionism. Societal pressures. Obviously, we don't really need to get into that too much, especially now with social media and these editing tools and softwares. It's out of control. And also, essentially what social media has become is us sharing our highlight reels. So all we're seeing is these perfectly curated lives. And then 3 would be fear of failure. A paralyzing fear of failure can be a driving force behind perfectionism. So it's just important that we keep those in mind as we move into our 3 healing practices.
Number 1, practice self-compassion.
Treat yourself with some kindness, the same kindness and understanding that you offer a loved one. Like when you heard Kit's story, you probably felt a level of compassion for her. I know I was thinking of you as a little kid. I know you said it developed later in life. But as soon as I locked into that visual of you experienced that, it really hurt my heart and I felt for you. So then the practice and the tool would be to flip that on myself. And I have kind of a fun idea that we all could try.
Yeah, I love this.
Okay. Take a class that you've never tried before, like pottery, for example. Give yourself a space to be terrible at something. Like just make a mess. Don't be good at it. Just try to have fun with it. I feel like this is such a great opportunity to practice self-compassion.
It's such a concrete exercise.
I know.
Because you are a beginner. So you go in with absolute beginner's mindset with no expectations. Just I'm going to do something with clay that may or may not turn into a usable piece of pottery. Well, we'll find out.
Kit, should we put ourselves to the test of this tool? Should you and I sign up for a pottery class?
Well, I've taken a pottery class at Glen Echo, and I was colossally terrible.
That's perfect.
I very much enjoyed it, actually. I did have frustration because, in all honesty, I was the one and only student in the class who didn't have any fire-worthy piece by the end of it. I'd be willing to try again. You never know. Maybe I've developed some hand-eye coordination since then. Who knows? No, I have no expectations. I'm just going to have fun. See, I was already setting expectations. Did you hear that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we should pick a different one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important for us to be aware.
I fell right on into
the first
it.
Step. That brings us to tool number 2. Literally perfect segue. Set realistic goals.
Striving for excellence in all things at all times on all days. Hungry, underslept, doesn't matter, must achieve excellence. Not at all realistic. Also exhausting and anxiety inducing.
Do you reread an email 1,000 times before sending? I do. I think I read it up and down, sideways, backwards. I've heard too from people in my life that they are scared to even send something, so they just don't send it at all. And that is a classic perfectionism trap, where if it's not perfect, I'm not even going to put it out there. Oh, that kind of is a perfect segue into tool number 3, which is make mistakes. They're perfect opportunities for growth and learning. I think I've learned a lot through this practice in the last few years of putting myself out there and sharing my creative endeavors, whether it's content or art or even this podcast, and accepting that it's not perfect and it's okay. And I've even practiced it by showing some people even unfinished work. I feel like it's helped me cultivate more courage and just allowed me to grow and learn from the mistakes, because I think I was just getting too frustrated with paralysis by overanalysis, which I still sometimes get. And I didn't want it to rule my life. Like, I'm like, okay, just send it as it is. Just post it as it is. And I still fall into this trap time and time again, but I'm doing my best.
As you said to me earlier before we started recording, do it scared. Mm-hmm. That should be the subtitle of Make Mistakes. Make mistakes, do it scared. Don't not do it just because it's scary or just because it's not good enough yet. Do it. Do the things. Live your life. Have the fun. Do it scared.
I feel like this is the most pivotal tool. If you can do it scared, post it not perfect, send it not perfect, it's going to really accelerate your growth, and I'm excited for you.
Everyone else out there is doing the same thing. Every single other person will make some mistakes today and very likely will do something that feels a little scary, but they do it.
Mm-hmm. That's a wrap for today's episode on healing your perfectionistic ways.
This week, practice self-compassion. Make sure the goals you've set for yourself are realistic and achievable. And go out there and be a damn human. Make some mistakes.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Soulful Wellness. You can find us here every single Thursday. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with anyone who might benefit from this episode.
As always, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep striving for your best self. Until next time, peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light. The Soulful of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers.